Welcome to DIY World Improvement. I'm your host, Catherine Carlozzi. Since I began this show a year ago, I've interviewed more than 20 do-it-yourself world improvers. Most were motivated by an external social issue or a problem or a need or an unmet potential, whether it was in their own or the global community. But sometimes the motivation for world improvement is a personal tragedy. It goes without saying that tragedies change lives, but some people are destroyed by them, while others pick up the pieces and find a way to go on. Some find strength in using a personal tragedy as the impetus for helping others. Such is the case with today's guest, Joyce Davis, co-founder and president of a Warren, New Jersey and California-based nonprofit called Keeping Babies Safe. In that name lies the story. Joyce, welcome to DIY World Improvement.
Thank you.
Talk about your son, Garret, who really is the heart of keeping babies safe.
Garret was my third child. I had two older daughters who were 6 and 5. Garret was, a happy, healthy baby boy who was born in August of 2000. He was the joy of his sisters, watching everything they were doing, just a really happy, healthy baby. And in December, we had gone away, and Garret was sleeping in a pack and play with a supplemental mattress that was advertised as suitable for that pack and play, and Garret had suffocated in that pack and play. And through his death and time that had passed, we started doing some research on crib safety. Very initially, we were absolutely blown away to find out that there was on a website in very small print, it said, never use a supplemental mattress with a pack and play. It can cause suffocation. My husband and I were so distraught, and we couldn't believe that this kind of information and other crib safety information was not readily available to parents. I mean, we were in a position where we would have put my son in any crib, whether, we bought him a new crib at home. He was sleeping in a new crib. It was very upsetting to find out that this information was not readily available to consumers. I think as a consumer, you go to the stores and you trust the stores and you trust the brands that they're selling. And right next to the pack and play was this mattress, and it was advertised together. But only too late did we find out that they should never have been used together.
I watched my sister and a friend go through the loss of a very young child like that, and I've seen the aftermath. I know that it's so devastating, and it's so unlike any other loss. Talk to us, if you will, about the process that you went through between the time you lost Garret and founding KBS 6 years after Garret's death, and how you got the organization up and running.
Initially, I really don't remember much. I had two young daughters, and I just was trying to keep their life as normal as possible, and it was an extremely tough time. But my husband is an attorney, and he did what he knew and started researching cases and trying to find information that was out there. And at the time, he had gotten in touch immediately with Jack Walsh. And Jack Walsh is a crib safety expert. He's been involved in crib safety for over 25 years. Jack at the time was involved with another nonprofit child advocacy group. And my husband and Jack spoke immediately after my son had passed away, and Rich had told Jack our story. And Jack knew that this supplemental mattress was and could be a problem. Jack said to Rich, right now there are only 7 states in the United States that have crib safety laws. Believe it or not, cribs and the mattresses in the cribs were not mandated. There was no national law overseeing this. So through my husband's connection and through his legal work, Jack and Rich went to Washington, D.C. very shortly after, and they met with Turiselli and Corzine, and they lobbied for crib safety laws. Jack had been lobbying in Congress for 6 or 7 years prior to this and was instrumental in getting these 7 states to pass crib safety laws. So over those 4 or 5 years, Rich and Jack were working together, and also Lee Baxter. Lee Baxter had come from the CPSC. He was retired, and so Jack and Lee were involved with another child advocacy group, but at that time, that agency was going defunct. I had been following crib safety and what was happening with the laws, but was not ready personally or emotionally to jump into this. And then in 2006, Jack said to me, we're ready to form Keeping Baby Safe, and we would love for you to be a part of that. So it was me, Jack, and Lee, and we were really working hard to pass a crib safety law. What had happened was that Congress had drafted a bill that was covering cribs and juvenile products. Dianne Feinstein really endorsed that bill and put Garret's name on that bill. The ultimate bill was passed, and the CPSC supported that bill, and it became signed by President Bush at the end of his term, and it was the Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act
of 2008.
So that was my impetus to jump in when I did my research, and I realized, wow, there are no laws. There are no laws governing cribs and the mattresses that our babies are sleeping in. And if you really think about that there is no crib safety law,
it's amazing.
It's a horrific fact.
I mean, that is a really shocking thing when you think of all the other things that are legislated in this
right,
country.
And you think about car seats, how...
Exactly.
Right. To me, that was the toughest news to read, was that as I continued to do more research and I read the alarming facts about cribs and safe sleeping, and when you see the high, unfortunately, injury or death rates, and that this information was out there, but nobody was making it known to moms.
Do you know how big the problem is? Do you?
Yeah, I do. Cribs are the leading cause of injury and death of all juvenile products. In just this year alone, there were close to 82,000 injuries that were reported in emergency rooms, and cribs are the leading cause of death of all nursery products.
Okay, so we were talking about 2011 there. I know that Keeping Baby Safe has basically three missions: providing education, providing assistance, and providing leadership in keeping babies safe from preventable injuries associated
Correct.
with unsafe cribs and sleep environments. And you've talked a bit about the leadership component, which was becoming part of the force that led to the passing of the Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act of 2008. And then that was followed by standards, national
Correct.
standards. The first time, I believe, in
30 years. These are the strongest crib standards that are in place. We worked closely with the CPSC and the ASTM in representing the consumer's perspective in the new law.
Talk a little bit about those standards.
So those standards are really the toughest crib standards that this country has ever seen. Really, no more drop side cribs. You know, there's been over 2 million cribs recalled in the past few years. So no more traditional drop side cribs, much stronger hardware on the cribs, much stronger mattress support. If you do have any loose parts or screws, you have to be in touch with the manufacturer. You can't just go to Home Depot and say, you know, I need a screw or duct tape. The manufacturers are now providing supplies so that you can fix your crib. So now it makes it illegal for a manufacturer or a retailer to sell a crib that no longer complies.
That cuts out a lot of problems, but we both know that there's a whole nother issue. It's
Right.
eBay, it's the garage sale, it's your neighbor's basement or attic. There are a lot of used cribs out there, and in a time of economic downturn, I would think that people are going to be tempted.
Yes, and we tell people, when in doubt, throw it out. We get a lot of calls and a lot of emails, especially from grandparents who have that sentimental attachment and
Right.
say, oh, but the crib is in really good condition. Don't use it. Do not use that crib, especially if it's a drop side. I can't harp on it enough that an injury can happen. There should be no emotional attachment to an older crib. You need to buy a new crib. And I even say that to mothers who are having their second or third child. The crib that you used 5 years ago might no longer comply with the new standards.
Right.
And so you have to be diligent. You have to check. You have to either log on to our website at keepingbabysafe.org, and we list all the recalls. You can check your serial number of the crib and see if there's been any recalls. And if your crib has been recalled, like I said, please don't use it.
And that does speak to the second part of your mission, because you've said laws alone are not enough to keep babies safe. Parents have to be informed and they have to know. I know my neighbor was telling me that her niece is expecting their first child, and I said, well, there's a website you have to go to. Send her to Keeping Babies Safe because she's a first-time mother.
Right. You don't know.
You don't know. And I've looked at your safe sleep guidelines, and it's not what people used to recommend in the way a baby should sleep. So you need to go in and take a look at this, because the thinking of a couple years ago is not the thinking of today.
Correct. And, you know, we work very closely with the American Academy of Pediatrics, and they just revised their safe sleeping guidelines. You can go onto our website, and we developed a video with them. It's called Safe Sleep for Babies, and you see that our crib is bare. There's only a firm, tight-fitting mattress with a tight sheet. And the rule of thumb is between the mattress and the side of the crib, you should only fit 2 fingers. Mm-hmm. And if there's any more, that mattress doesn't fit properly. But if you see on the video and the AAP's new sleep guidelines, it's that the crib should be bare. No bumpers,
no bumpers,
pillows.
No toys, no pillows, no blankets, no quilts.
Right, and you put the baby to sleep on their back. But parents do have a hard time. You know, they like the look of the crib with the blankets and the bumpers. And we tell moms, you know what, put that in the crib when the baby's not in the crib. It should not be there when the baby's sleeping.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that when they were talking the other day about a shower, and it's like, ooh, no bumpers. Don't buy any bumpers.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about bumpers is it's happening like the crib safety law. Crib bumpers have now been banned in Chicago and Maryland, and that's going to start happening now. State by state, crib bumpers will be banned until it becomes a national law. Very
interesting. Well, I know that as part of the educational component of your mission that you've partnered with the New Jersey Department of Children and Families, DCF.
Yes.
And I spoke last week with Sunday Guston from the Office of Early Childhood Services within the department's Prevention and Community Partnerships Division. Let's hear what she had to say. Sunday, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I know that your office coordinates prevention services to New Jersey families with children up to the age of 6. Those services include home visitation program and early care and education. You work with a lot of different partners to achieve your objectives. One of those organizations is Joyce's organization, Keeping Babies Safe. How and when did your partnership with Keeping Babies Safe come about?
Well, Joyce contacted us, DCF, the Department of Children and Families, in mid-2008. And she reached out to say that her organization was wanting to make free cribs available to families that are participating in our services. So we were thrilled to get that initial contact from Joyce. A decision was made at that point to direct those resources to the Division of Prevention and Community Partnership. And since I'm overseeing early childhood services, that's how I got to know Joyce and learn more about the work that she's doing.
During the time that you've partnered with Keeping Babies Safe, you've placed cribs in approximately how many homes?
About 1,000 homes. It's been a wonderful resource for us here because it's not easy for us to come by those kinds of concrete resources for families.
And which have to be more important to families right now with the economy being what it is than even normally when it would be difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah, many of our families are low income or working poor families. To be able to put out the money to purchase a new crib can be a hardship for many of the families we're working with.
Part of the placement of the cribs in the home involves parental education, and I believe that Keeping Babies Safe has played a role in that as well, has it not?
They have in 2 ways. One is that there is an initial training to ensure that when we are distributing those cribs that they are used in a safe manner, that our home visitors or the agencies that we're working with know how to help the family set that crib up to meet the safety standards, and that the families fully understand a safety aspect of having the crib in their home. So that's one piece. There is a required training. The other is that Keeping Babies Safe has developed a video on DVD, and those have been really invaluable, just a very simple way to help kind of bring the issues of safe sleep to life for families. the home visitors or the other agency staff can bring those videos to the families when they go out to visit and to set up the crib. It's just a nice, easy way to make that education available to families.
And I know the video is also posted on your website, along with some of the tips on safe sleep.
It is. We try to make those resources available to anyone that comes to our website.
Talk, if you will, about the importance of organizations like Keeping Babies Safe to helping you carry out your mission.
It's very important. Our division, which is the Division of Prevention and Community Partnerships, the department, DCF, knows how difficult this work is and how challenging it is to educate parents, to support parents, to prevent child neglect, and ultimately prevent child abuse. And it really takes more than one organization or one group of individuals. Our community partners are essential to this work. And as I stated earlier, an organization like Joyce's that makes these concrete resources available to families, those are not easy to come by in this work. It's difficult and challenging enough to get the resources just to provide kind of the core services. So it's a wonderful collaboration and partnership that we have with Joyce, and we hope to be able to continue to have that relationship. It really helps to fill an important gap for the families that we work with.
Well, judging by the look on your face, Joyce, I guess it's a pretty productive relationship, and I guess she doesn't have to worry about that, huh?
No. Yeah, we have a really great relationship together, and the families are really so thankful because I don't need to tell you, but they would be co-sleeping and not co-sleeping properly, or literally these babies are sleeping in dresser drawers or laundry baskets. They really have no means.
And anybody who's been to any place where you can buy a crib these days knows that they are not inexpensive.
They are not. So. With the new law, they are pieces of furniture.
Beyond what you're doing in donating cribs here, you're donating cribs to other places as well, are you not?
Across the country. We work with hospitals across the country. We work with hospitals and health and human service agencies in Oregon, Seattle, California, West Virginia, all across the country, and over 35 hospitals and health and human service agencies have contacted us asking for a video, asking for our crib safety tip flyers. So we're happy to provide that.
Daycare centers? Do you donate cribs to daycare centers and also the educational materials?
We donate all the educational materials to those daycare centers for the staff of the daycare centers and also for the parents. But the daycare centers need different daycare-approved cribs. So we have worked with a lot of daycare centers to help them get those cribs. Residential cribs, the law went into effect in last June, and daycare centers have until December of 2012 to comply with the new standard.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. And aren't there some other institutions, hotels?
So that's correct. So if a family's traveling, they should right away contact the hotel and find out what crib they have, and they should find out if that crib has been recalled. They should do their research because, like I said, the hotels and motels have until December to comply with the new standard.
Right.
And a lot of the times the hotels don't have crib sheets, so it's very important that you ask if they have crib sheets because a lot of times the hotel will give you a twin bed sheet, and that's very dangerous. You should never use a twin bed sheet in a crib.
Right, because they're so big, there's so much volume there.
Exactly.
Do you have any idea how many cribs you've been able to donate?
We've donated just recently over 4,000 cribs.
Wow.
And growing. And, we hope to continue that. I mean, we're a small nonprofit organization.
Right.
So,
which begs the question of where you get the money to donate those cribs and create the educational materials.
Right. We get the money through grants, through private foundations, through fundraising efforts. We do a big run walk every year in New Jersey and Basking Ridge where we raise a lot of money, and all of that money turns directly into cribs and education. We're completely a volunteer organization.
How big are you in terms of staffing?
We have 8 members on our board. and a PR person who works with us. And we also have someone who does development and grant foundation. So she does all of our grant work for us. And we did just receive a grant from Toys R Us, which allowed us to give over 200 cribs to the state of New Jersey.
Garrett's death was a tragedy for your whole family, and you mentioned that your husband jumped in, right from the beginning, and you have your lovely daughters as well. Are they involved at all with keeping babies safe?
Yes, very much so. They have always been involved. My oldest daughter started initially with the New Jersey Department of Child and Family Services, where it was her idea to do the first run walk. And she raised enough money to donate 350 cribs to the state.
Wow.
And she went to the press conference and gave essentially them the cribs. And then my other daughter also had, wanted to do a run walk where she too raised enough money to donate more cribs. And then 2 years ago, the rubber bracelets became really popular, the 1-inch rubber bracelets.
Which I might add we're wearing here in the station today.
They designed those and sold them through friends, Facebook, social media, and they raised over $10,000 for keeping babies safe selling those bracelets. Every year the Y does a very big day called Healthy Kids Day, and they invite Keeping Babies Safe to participate. And my kids run the table. They hand out all our educational material and information about keeping babies safe. They're very, very involved.
So it is a family affair.
It is a family affair.
That's
all for Garret.
That's a wonderful thing. And how do you think that's going to affect the girls as they get older? Do you see them, what is the future of keeping babies safe? Do you see them staying involved with it? What do you see happening with it?
I see them always doing it for the love of their brother and just for every other child out there, to keep them in a safe sleep environment. I mean, really, the crib is the only place you leave a baby unattended, so it has to be safe. Right now, we're working to really raise awareness and update hospital discharge forms. When you leave the hospital, right now, all they ask you about is a car seat. No one talks to you about crib safety and do you have a crib. So we're really working to make it a law that crib and safe sleeping are discussed prior to discharge. And that's going to happen. It really will.
That's really interesting. I mentioned to you that we've talked about postpartum depression when I had Mary Jo Cody on the show, and that was another thing. It used to be that at discharge, that was something that wasn't talked about either, that now is, in this state at least. Just as a communicator, I have one more question I want to ask you. I know that you went to the Newhouse School at Syracuse University and have degrees in advertising and psychology.
Yes.
Have you been able to call on those as part of what you do as president of Keeping Babies Safe?
Immensely. After I graduated, I worked and I did general advertising and then got into direct marketing. So it's really helped me to spread awareness, disseminate information, develop a website. I was very involved at the time when I did direct marketing with compliance packages. And now it's like, again, I'm following up with these users, finding out how Keeping Babies Safe can help them. In hindsight, yes, it has all helped me very much so. Who knew? But yes.
And it doesn't sound to me like you will be leaving your position as president of KBS anytime soon.
No, I have no, I will never do. I will forever be doing this.
Do you have any advice to other DIY world improvers out there?
My advice is that, God forbid you have a tragedy. Initially, so many people tell you that one day you will be doing something, and you don't believe it, but you can. Somehow you develop the strength and the courage to go forward and to help others. And you have to be assertive. You have to be strong, because this was a tragedy and the information was out there. And I would never want another family to have to go through what we've gone through.
Well, thank you, Joyce, for telling us your story. You'll find more information at keepingbabysafe.org.
We were in a position where we would have put my son in any crib, whether, we bought him a new crib at home. He was sleeping in a new crib. It was very upsetting to find out that this information was not readily available to consumers. I think as a consumer, you go to the stores and you trust the stores and you trust the brands that they're selling. And right next to the pack and play was this mattress. Mm-hmm. And it was advertised together. Mm-hmm. But only too late did we find out that they should never have been used together.
I've watched my sister and a friend go through the loss of a very young child like that, and I've seen the aftermath. I know that it's so devastating, and it's so
a supplemental mattress that was advertised as suitable for that pack and play, and Garret had suffocated in that pack and play. And through his death and time that had passed, we started doing some research on crib safety. Very initially, we were absolutely blown away to find out that there was on a website in very small print, it said, never use a supplemental mattress with a pack and play. It can cause suffocation. My husband and I were so distraught, and we couldn't believe that this kind of information and other crib safety information was not readily available to parents. I mean,
like any other loss. Talk to us, if you will, about the process that you went through between the time you lost Garret and founding KBS 6 years after Garret's death, and how you got the organization up and running.
Initially, I really don't remember much. I had 2 young daughters, and I just was trying to keep their life as normal as possible, and it was an extremely tough time. But my husband is an attorney, and he did what he knew and started researching cases and trying to find information that was out there. And at the time, he had gotten in touch immediately with Jack Walsh. And Jack Walsh is a crib safety expert. He's been involved in crib safety.
Welcome to DIY World Improvement. I'm your host, Catherine Carlozzi. Since I began this show a year ago, I've interviewed more than 20 do-it-yourself world improvers. Most were motivated by an external social issue or a problem or a need or an unmet potential, whether it was in their own or the global community. But sometimes the motivation for world improvement is a personal tragedy. It goes without saying that tragedies change lives, but some people are destroyed by them, while others pick up the pieces and find a way to go on. Some find strength in using a personal tragedy as the impetus for helping others. Such is the case with today's guest, Joyce Davis, co-founder and president of a Warren, New Jersey and California-based nonprofit called Keeping Babies Safe. In that name lies the story. Joyce, welcome to DIY World Improvement.
Thank you.
Talk about your son, Garret, who really is the heart of Keeping Babies Safe.
Garret was my 3rd child. I had 2 older daughters who were 6 and 5. Garret was, a happy, healthy baby boy who was born in August of 2000. He was the joy of his sisters, watching everything they were doing, just a really happy, healthy baby. And in December, we had gone away, and Garret was sleeping in a pack and play with